I'd like to welcome all of you to this course, Business Research Method, for all the business administration students. I'm going to deliver 12 sessions for this course. I am Dr. مراد محمد النشمي, an Associate Professor of Management at University of Science and Technology, Yemen. So this course is going to be for all the business administration. The main reference for this course is Business Research Methods by Zekmond and Bybin and Carr, and also another reference which is Research Methods for Business, a Skill Building Approach by Sikaran, Oma Sikaran and Poggi. The intended learning outcomes for this course is that the students would be able to, after of course completing this course, would be able to analyze the management problem which could be faced by business organizations and discover causes behind them. As we know, the business problems are very important to be analyzed, to be researched, and most of the companies, most of the organizations needs people to solve their problem, and these people must be the researchers. So one of the main important skills that the business administration students and researchers needs to acquire is how to solve problems and how to help in making decision. The second ILO is that the students will be able to prepare a research proposal and do scientific research in business administration. So the research proposal is very important as a roadmap for the research, and all these students needs to learn about this. The third ILO is that the students would be able to use technology in collecting and analyzing data, and this is very important by using all the programs of statistics like SPSS, like AMOS, like SAS. All these programs are helping in analyzing the data, and also in terms of collecting the data, they might use the online questionnaires and online instruments. Another intended learning outcomes for the students is they would be able to, of course, after finishing this course, develop team working skills, which is very important for any business administration students. Students needs to learn how they can build the team and how they can lead the team, which is very, very important, and I hope in this course they can understand these skills. Accordingly, the course content is going to be reflected from the ILO. The first topic we are going to discuss is Introduction to Business Research Method, which is giving the introductory information and theoretical information about the business research method. The second session is going to contain an overview of business research process. So students and researchers are going to learn how they can prepare the research step by step and stage by stage in the business research process. The problem definition and research proposal is another session. It's going to take one full session, because it is the focus for any research. People need to understand and identify research problems very clearly, and also they need to prepare a good and sound research proposal so that they can have a guide in preparing the research. Session number 4 is going to be about literature review. So as we know, literature review is one of the main important components in any research, in any field, of course, not only in business administration. So people need to review the previous studies, people need to review the theories, models, they need to know about the conceptualization, which is very, very important. The theoretical framework and hypothesis development is going to be dependent on the literature review that the researchers are going to prepare. So it's going to be also the topic or the issue of session number 5. Number 6 is going to be data collection, so methods and techniques of data collection and instruments of data collection, how you are going to build the data collection instruments according to the type of research, of course, whether it is qualitative, quantitative, whether it is questionnaire, experiment, interview, and focus group discussion, or even observation. videotaping or checklist observation. All these data collection instruments and techniques are going to be discussed in this session. The session number 7 is going to contain be discussing the measurement and scaling techniques, which is very important. So it is a reflection of the data collection techniques, so how you are going to build these types of research techniques. One of them is questionnaire design, which is going to take one full session, because in business administration, most of us, we use quantitative data, and mainly we use the questionnaire design. The qualitative research tools also is not going to be ignored for business administration or for any researcher in any field. So we are going to touch upon interview, the observation, the focus group interview, different types of interviews and observation. The sampling methods also is going to take one session. I'm going to deliver one session about the sampling methods, since it's one of the main important components of the research design. And also quantitative data analysis, analyzing the quantitative data using different programs, using different software like SPSS, SAS, AMOS, whatever. The last session is going to be communicating the research findings. So we're going to cover the report writing, how we are going to prepare the report writing, what is the main purpose, what are the objectives of the report writing, and also why it is important to prepare it, because it is going to disseminate the findings. We can say it is one of the main important things that you do. So after collecting data, analyzing and getting findings, you need to disseminate and let people know about the findings and about the contribution or the added value you have added. And this is also will take the last session in for this what we call course. So now we will start with the first session, which is an introduction to business research method. Of course, for every session we are going to have intended learning outcomes, so we can guarantee that the students are going to get some knowledge, get some skills, get some understanding. So after finishing this session or chapter, the students should be able to define business research, describe the scientific research characteristics, explain how research contributes to business success, differentiate between various types of research, which is very important to know before even you get into the research process. You need to understand the different types of research. Now let's start the first session, which is going to be an introduction to business research method. So if I ask what is research and characteristics of research and many other of course issues are going to be discussed in this course. So the intended learning outcomes for this course is طبعا after studying this chapter, you should be able to, the students should be able to define business research. This is very, very important to understand from the beginning. So defining the business research is the first ILO for this session. Second is describe the scientific research characteristics. This is very important, and this is important in the way that people needs to differentiate between ordinary research and scientific research, which is going to be dependent on some characteristics. The third ILO is explaining how research contributes to business success. So the students, after finishing or after studying this session, he must be able to explain how research contributes to the business success. So of course it is not just the research is only a development of an academic piece of work. It is also contribution to solve practical problems. Number 4, differentiate between various types of research. So the students should differentiate after of course finishing this course, differentiate between various types of research. We have many classifications or many types of research. Researcher needs to understand before start doing the research. Now in this session we are going to discuss or to deliver an introduction about business research, understanding the business research and whatever related to it, and also understanding the characteristics of scientific research as we have explained in the ILOs, and also understanding all the types of research which is going to be classified in 4 classifications. The 4th topic or issue we are going to discuss today is also the ethics, which is very, very important. The ethical issues and the conduct ethics that the researcher needs to follow or be following through the process of doing research. Okay. Now, what is business research? This is the first thing we need to understand. When we talk about business research, we need first to understand what is it, even before we start doing the research. Understanding the business research can facilitate the work after that. So according to Grinnell, the business research is a careful, systematic, patient study, an investigation in some field of knowledge undertaken to establish facts or principles. So the main or the keywords here is it is a systematic study, it is a patient study, it is an investigation in the field of knowledge that undertake to establish or which be undertaken to establish facts and principles. So come up with contribution, which is facts and principles. That's why a lot of researchers, they said, research come up with some ideas, but these ideas or these solutions or these findings must be closer to the truth. So after the research, they are going to be facts and principles. Another definition, which is by another author, a systematic collection and interpretation of information. So collection and interpretation of information with a clear purpose to find things out. So collect data, analyze this data, interpret this data or this information in the purpose of find some new things, develop new things. The third definition, which is by Zickman, this definition is Zickman 1, 2013, okay, is a process of finding solutions to a problem after thorough study and analyze of situation. So the process of finding solutions, these solutions, how can be found to this problem? How can I find solutions to this problem? It is going to be it is going to be dependent on a thorough study in which again I collect some data from the field about this research problem, then analyze this problem and come up with recommendations. One of the main things in this definition, which is very important, is it involves decision making, and this is what make business research different from the research in some different fields, because we do business research for developing things, for come up with new ideas, new solutions for problems, but it also can help in decision making, in the sense that when we make decision, we also gather information, okay, or data, or collect data, then analyze this data, then come up with decision alternatives. Okay, so we when we go through the or when we need to take decision, we need to go through the making decision process, which is collecting data, analyze the data, and then come up with decision alternatives, so the decision taker can take the decision or choose one of the options or alternatives. So what considered research? What is research, or what is considered to be a research? The first one is enhancement for previous work is a research. So I just develop or improve a previous work. For example, if somebody is doing a research about increasing the job performance, for example, job performance, or improving the job performance of the employees. So if somebody is done this by doing a research by studying the relationship between job satisfaction and job performance, and I will just do the research again in different situation, different environment, or add some other variables. That means I am enhancing the previous work. I am doing the previous work, but adding something, or make an added value by doing the research in different setting. So if this done in for example in England, and I do it in Yemen, that means I have enhanced the work by finding out whether this research findings is going to be the same when I do it in different environment. A replication study, and this is it's a research in spite of the fact that it is a little bit weak, because the added value is not going to be much. So I replicate study, or I do a study again to find out whether the previous study has gone in a good way, or find the same results or findings or not. The third is I introduce something new, and this is very, very, very highly evaluated, or highly high contribution, or very, very high contribution, which is coming up with knowledge, coming up with something totally new. That means add theory. So here I come up with new new knowledge. So this is also of a higher level. Adding new knowledge to the existing knowledge structure, that's when I develop, for example, new or develop models. When I talk about the models, for example, talking about wages, the effect of wages on job satisfaction, for example. This is a simple model in which we have an IV here and a DV here. The IV is the independent variable, which is wages. The DV is dependent variable, which is job satisfaction. So if I compare between two types of employees with regard to the nationality, or if I do the research in different types of environments, so I am going to add another variable, which is moderating. We will discuss the variables in the next sessions and explain them. So if I add what we call N and MV, which is moderating variable, like unemployment. So if I add this as a moderating variable, that means I am adding knowledge to the existing knowledge by improving and developing this model. So I come up with a new model by adding this moderating variable. So business research, as we have explained earlier, is related to the organization in the sense that it is going to help in the decision making process, and this is very important to be understood. So it is not only adding a research piece of work, it is also participating or helping the organization and the CEO or the president of any organization, or the leader in the organization, to make decisions, and also it helps them to take good decisions. So it is related to the managers, the organization, the development, the knowledge. So different things and different people and different entities will get the help of research. Why we call it scientific research? Of course, when we talk about business research method, we must talk about scientific research. It's not an ordinary research, which is not going to follow the characteristics of scientific research. We do scientific research, and we call it scientific research because it is not based on hunches and intuition. It is dependent on scientific methodologies and methods. So purposive and rigorous. So it has a purpose, it has an objective, it has a goal. So I'm not going to do research, or I cannot do research if I don't have a goal. And rigorous, dependent on previous work and previous models and theories, come up with comparable findings about similar issue. So if I'm not going to come up with new findings, that means it's a waste of time, and it is not mostly scientific. Findings are accurate and confident. So I will maintain and keep the accuracy of the data. The research is going to be dependent on data collected and processed in by analyzing this data, and then come up with a result or results, which is going to be the output. So if the input is accurate, the output, of course, is going to be accurate. It is more objective, as I said, focusing on the accuracy, and bias must not be there. the researcher must be objective and not subjective, and highlight the most critical factors at the workplace. So the characteristics of research, the first characteristic is purposiveness. So I must identify a purpose from the beginning. So if I have a problem with turnover, the turnover rate in the organization, employees turnover rate is in the organization is high, my objective is going to be reducing the turnover, and this is what we call the decision taker purpose, which is the main goal of the research. It must be also rigor. That means it should be done thoroughly, with a good theoretical and conceptual background. Okay, so and as well as sound methodology. So I depend on theories in order to develop and build a theoretical and conceptual model, as well as I must follow a sound methodology. If you can read this example, a manager asks 10 to 12 employees how to increase their level of commitment. If solely on the basis of their responses, the manager reaches several conclusions on how employees' commitment can be increases, the whole approach to investigation would be unscientific. Why it would be unscientific? Because the first thing is that other influences might be ignored, bias and incorrectness. A manager asking his employees, and the issue is commitment, so they might not give accurate data because the manager is the one who is doing the research. So the data will come up with this, from this research might be misleading. It is based on few employees. The subjects of this research is only 10 to 12, and this is problematic. The testability is the third characteristic of research. So forming hypotheses that can be tested, applying certain statistical tests. So the researcher must or might hypothesize that those employees who perceive greater opportunities for participation in decision making would have a higher level of commitment. So I propose or hypothesize, and then I collect data, and then I compare between the findings and this hypothesis and find out whether I can accept the hypothesis or reject it. The replicability is another characteristic of scientific research. So similar findings should occur from other research done in other organizations if similar circumstances prevail. So the scientific research might come up with the same findings if somebody else is going to do the research in the same circumstances. Otherwise, one of the research papers might have some problems, or there are some other variables that can of course have some problems. So turnover, for example, if I'm doing investigating the turnover causes in an organization, if somebody else is going to investigate the same issue in the same organization with the same people, it must come up with, this research must come up with the same results. Accuracy, findings should be accurate, and as I explained a little bit earlier, I said the accuracy is dependent on the accuracy of the data. If the data is accurate, the findings are going to be also accurate. So the conclusion of research should be based on evidence gathered from information collected from real life experience and observation. Generalizability, so findings should be generalized to other settings, situation and organization. So if I'm doing a research about for example, organizational commitment in telecommunication companies. It's going to be a big population. So if I will take a sample from a big population, so if the sample is 30 out of, for example, 15,000, so if I scientifically draw the sample in a good way following the scientific techniques, the result of the findings come up from the 300 subjects must be generalized for the 15,000. And also if I am taking a sample from different types of companies and caring about the homogeneity and heterogeneity, so in this case I can generalize the findings. Parsimony: research manageable with simple research framework. Marginal variables should be excluded. So if I am going to introduce some variables to hypothesize the effects on some issues, these variables must be with the big effects, high effects, not marginal. So if I am for example talking about organizational performance as an issue, so as a DV, as an issue, so when I introduce the causes, which is going to be IVs, these causes must be related to or must be hypothesized to have a big effects on organizational performance, like for example organizational culture, leadership. So when I choose the variables, it must not be marginal, it must be real variables with big and high effects. So 2 to 3 specific variables in the work situation are identified that would be more useful and valuable to the manager than 10 different variables to increase organizational commitment by 48. So I must introduce some variables which have higher effect. Of course it is dependent on the previous studies and theories to hypothesize that type of effects. Now dear students, let's talk about another issue here, which is related to this session and which is very, very important. That's the types of research, which is going to be in different classification. So the research may be classified into different types, and we need to understand these types of research as per the classifications. Several bases can be adopted for classification, such as nature of problem, techniques, the building blocks, which is the theory, the problem definition, and the time frame. So we are going to deal with or explain the types of research as per these classifications. The first classification is dependent on the nature of the problem, whether the problem is going to be a current problem or going to be a theoretical problem. Sorry. So for theoretical, for practical contribution, we need to do an applied research. So if I am facing a problem, current problem in my organization, and I want to solve this problem using by the means of business research, it means I am going to go for the applied research. If I am going to go for development, developing the way of the work, the organization, or adding some knowledge or theory, I'm going to go for the basic research. So the applied research is research conducted to solve current problems faced by manager or the manager in the work setting. So it is also a research designed for the purpose of producing results that may be applied to real world situations. So I am solving a current problem. I am facing it now, and it is going to be, the solution is going to be special for this organization. So it is again research done with eye towards making products that can be commercialized or at least made available to humankind for practical benefits. The systematic, again, it is also the systematic intensive study directed towards the practical applications of knowledge and problem solving. Like this example. So, you know, the iPod, it started in the market, or it has been, or it was introduced by Apple company in 2001. So it has got an increase in the sales by 200% until 2008, but the sales decreased by 6% in 2009. So this is a problem, practical problem faced by Apple in that timing. So what is the reason for this decrease? So this going to be for Apple and for this type of product. So it is applied research. The basic research, as I said earlier, it is a research that can add something new in the body of knowledge in particular field. So adding, improving or developing a variable, developing a theory, coming up with models, new models, it is theory. What is added in theory is going to be a basic research. Again, systematic and sensitive sense study, a primary aim of which the fuller knowledge or understanding of the subject under study rather than a practical application. So a development is also part of that. So if I'm going to do research about how to improve the effectiveness of information system, how to integrate technology into the organization overall strategic objective, and how to increase the productivity of the employees, how to increase the effectiveness of small businesses, this is all are very, very important research, of course, and it is going to be a development. So in terms of knowledge, even in terms of the way of the organization is doing the work. The second classification is which is dependent on techniques and approach, the methodology. We have quantitative and we have the other type, which is qualitative. The quantitative is measuring the phenomena. That means using the statistical analysis, collect data, analyze using the statistical analysis to measure the phenomena. I'm not going to gather or collect opinions or points of view. I'm going to measure the phenomena as it is. Take a real picture to the behavior or to the phenomena in the company. And the qualitative, it is understanding human phenomena. This is different because here it is going to depend on the researcher as a tool of data connection, and also as a tool of data analysis. So it depends on the researcher if he can understand this human phenomena or not. Depends on his knowledge, his experience in doing this type of research. In terms of the tools of data collection and the quantitative, we use questionnaire, field laboratory experiments. And the qualitative, we use interview, focus group discussions, and observations. The third is using for quantitative the statistical analysis, because it is dependent on quantitative data, and in the qualitative it is dependent on the human as instrument in data gathering and analyzing or analyze the information. That's why both are different. The third classification is dependent on the theory, which is building blocks of science. So we have two types of theories of examination for the theory, or using the theory in research, or differentiated the research according to the theory. We have the theory building and the theory testing. All are interrelated. So coming up with new knowledge, a new contribution, theoretical contribution, is the building of the theory. Using another theory to find out whether this phenomena goes well or not, or come up with another model, it is testing a theory. And both the types are called deduction and induction. So the deduction is the process by which we arrive to reasoned conclusion by logical generalization of a knowledge or fact. It is like this. So I have the theory already developed. I just formulate hypothesis, then choose population and collect and analyze data, and then come up with findings. And these findings are going to be whether the hypothesis dependent on this theory is accepted or rejected. The example is if we know that all high performers are high proficient in their jobs. So if Ali is high performer, we can hypothesize that he is highly proficient in his job. The induction is as I said, the opposite. So the induction is a process where we observe certain phenomena on this basis arrived at conclusion. In other words, in induction we logically establish a general proposition based on observed fast facts. So I observe phenomena, come up with patterns, and these patterns are going to be a model, formulate relationships, model, and then examine this model and come up with a theory or a developed theory. So we see that production process are the prime feature of factories. We therefore conclude that factories exist for production purposes. So we observe things and problems and phenomena, and then come up with a theory, and this is the highest level of contribution in business research. The third one is types of research, or the third classification is types of research dependent on problem definition. Except the first, it is divided into three types. The first type is exploratory, which is a type of research in which we don't know that whether there is a problem or not, but we are going to do research to find out some irregularities, whether there is a problem or not. And it is initial research conducted to clarify and define nature of problem, does not provide conclusive evidence, but I need, of course, another research to solve the problem. So the recommendations and findings of this type of research is whether there is a problem or not. So if I do a data mining for the sales of Yemen Airways for 10 years or 20 years, just to find out if there are some irregularities, regardless positive or negative, high season or low season. So if I find some hiccups or problems, I will recommend that another research must be done to solve this problem. The second one is a descriptive, which is another type of research in which we describe characteristic of the problem. Of course, this classification is related to the research objectives. So describe characteristics of population and phenomena. Some understanding of the nature of the problem is there, but I am looking for some characteristics, looking at the environment. But again, this type of research needs another research to solve the problem. The third one, which is very important, and it's an advanced type of research, which is what we call the causal and correlational. This type of research conducted to identify cause-effect relationship. I've given some examples just minutes ago about the variables. So we said the issue is what we call DV, dependent variable, and this DV is going to be affected or have a relationship with an IV or IVs, which is the independent variables. So it is a cause effect research. So reasons come up with results, or affected issues and come up with a finding. This is an example for the last one: exploratory research, descriptive and causal. So the possible situation: will people be interested in our new product or not? This is the researcher here is unaware about the problem, so he's just asking whether they are interested or not. Here in the descriptive, aware but not fully aware, the problem not clearly defined. So what features? You're asking about what might be the features do buyers prefer in our product. But the third one is the problem clearly defined, asking which of the two advertising campaigns, which we know, is more effective. So here the problem is very clear. So to conclude, my dear students, throughout this session we learned that the business research definition, how we can define it, understand it, and also describing the scientific research characteristics, explaining how research contributes to business success, and differentiating between various types of research. That's what we have come up with from this session. This is the assignment, which is going to be attached in the LMS. You can find it along with this material. Now we come to the end of the session, which used to be was about the introduction about the business administration or business research methods. So the assignment is going to be attached in the LMS. Thank you very much for listening, and see you in the next session.